Hey people, voice talking to you today. We are looking at a game called No Love Lost. This is an odd one. It's another free game that I found in the Steam Infinite Replayability Fest, and since I love free stuff, I decided I would look past the mixed reviews and see if this game had something to offer. Now, before we get started, if you want to check out the game for yourself, it looks like something that you might be interested in. Of course, there's a link for you down in the description that will take you straight to the game. You can also find a link to my Twitch stream down there where you can come and hang out with me live. I play all of these games on stream before I write the review about them. So if you want to see the games before the video goes up, come and say hi. Now, the first thing that drew my attention to this game was the style of its art. It reminded me a lot of Borderlands, which is never a bad thing, especially seeing how stylish that game is, and off the bat, at a glance, this game looked pretty good. However, it did not take long for me to realize that the models and the assets are about as far as that extends to. The animations are very stiff and very bad. I'm going to be completely honest with you, the animations, they suck. It needs a lot of work in that department. And I'm going to double down on this point because if there's anything that really held the visuals of this game back, it was the animations. It's stiff, there's no sense of weight, even when you're swinging around these big fancy laser weapons. And everything from walking to shooting to fighting sort of just feels like you are a video game character, like you're stuck in a two-dimensional space and your polygons just can't bend like they used to. So what is it that you actually do in the world of No Love Lost? Well, you are a raider who has come to this alien planet in search of your fortune in a sci-fi future. To make that fortune, you're going to be dropping down into the dangerous wilds to search for nectar, a mysterious and potently magical golden sticky elixir that comes out of enemies and monsters and their nests and is definitely not piss and 100% hygienic to carry around. Of course, you are not the only raider looking for this not piss. So, you and a team of other players will drop down alongside a second team to compete to see who can collect more nectar and survive to return to the ship with their haul. This is where the game's extraction shooter origins come into play. So, you will try and defend your ship from other raiders and other players until it takes off. If you fail, you could end up losing your entire haul unless you bank it in some of the supply ships that will stop along the map halfway through the game. But as I mentioned, there is competition to this. So whichever team brings back more nectar at the end of the match gets, well, just a little more nectar. The rewards are not really inspiring, frankly. The nectar that you find, you don't even get to keep all of it. It's just to earn real nectar, which you can use to buy only cosmetics. It's just cosmetics. That's all the nectar's used for, unfortunately. Frankly, it's a really piss-poor way to inspire players to keep gathering this substance. It doesn't make it feel valuable. And frankly, I imagine players are going to very quickly lose interest in collecting this stuff. So how do raids function? Well, first, when you start the game, you can pick out your raider. There are a few different flavors to choose from. There is stereotypical crazy hair space lady, orange dreamsicle, and macho big hat mutton chops robot cowboy man, which is obviously the coolest of those. It should also be noted that what raider you choose doesn't really matter. It's all cosmetic. These guys do not have different abilities or statistics or even animations for that matter. Once you've picked your raider, you can choose 2 starting abilities. You can pick between different things like the ability to throw dynamite, which is a very weak grenade, or you can throw gas grenade, which is a very weak area of effect type deal, or you can set down a sentry, which will shoot enemies from a set position, or you can drop a drone, which will also shoot enemies from a fixed position. Yeah, to be honest with you, a lot of these abilities aren't all that helpful, except for the bullet shield. That is, quite frankly, the most useful of these abilities, and the only one worth using most of the time. And then you get to choose your starting loadout, which, I mean, also doesn't matter, because for whatever reason, the game only ever starts you out with a rifle and a sword, But there are a bunch of different ranged and melee weapons to choose between, like rifles and shotguns and revolvers and snipers and rocket launchers. I mean, yeah, that's it. There's only like 5 ranged weapons and 5 melee weapons. But there are lots of different skins for them. Once you're all geared up, you head to your shuttle and set out to start your raid. You'll be dropped into a random location on a random map that all look roughly the same. And from here, you head around to different locations to complete events and collect nectar. And those events can be anything amongst the various Destiny-style events you would see, from taking down bosses, to clearing out nests, to climbing a big tower, to destroying nests, to hunting down enemies. I mean, a lot of them are kind of repetitive, but there's some interesting stuff to be found here, like the insides of various ships and audio log fragments. Along the way, you can stop at points of interest to open loot crates and find better weapons and shield modules and health packs in a very Fortnite-type deal. There's nothing wrong with that, it's just, you know, your starting loadout is pretty meaningless because you're going to be finding new stuff anyways, even if the starting loadout system did work. And, you know, we've already got Fortnite, so were I the developer of this game, random loot would not really be a thing. If they want to keep random loot, I would recommend they get rid of the weapon tier system entirely so that players can actually spend their nectar on something important, like new weapons and armor and abilities and equipment, and instead have random loot maybe be run-wide buffs or more nectar or stuff like that. It's not hard to get players to go looking for stuff, but having to spend time getting your weapons to a decent level before you go and take on any events is just a frustrating step between. Now, the map you'll be raiding on is actually pretty big, and surprisingly enough, getting around was my favorite part of the whole endeavor. You have a hoverboard that you can summon and dismiss at will, and not only is that hoverboard significantly faster than your walking speed, but it can soar over long distances. If you get launched into the air, there's these rings you can find all over the place that can give you speed boosts, and additionally, my favorite part of the whole thing is you have the ability to launch your own speed rings. So if you want to just randomly give yourself a speed boost in the middle of an open area, you can. If you want to drop a speed ring on top of a little hill as you're soaring over to bounce off of it and keep flying, you can do that too. Of course, you have a limited number of them, but you can get more of them by, for example, getting your teammates to run through your rings or finding them in loot containers. Hoverboard, my beloved. Zipping around the map was so much fun, and bouncing between these rings and zipping off of cliffs and soaring over enemies and using the hoverboard's built-in guns to hit and run enemies as you passed by or circle around them was super satisfying. The controls are a little slow, and there's a bit of a learning curve to it, but frankly, it didn't detract from the experience at all. I love the hoverboard mechanic, and I wish that they had leaned into that a lot more. Of course, the guns on your hoverboard don't do all that much, so you'll be switching back and forth between it during combat. You use your hoverboard for hit and run and speed, and then you switch to on foot when you want to deal some real damage. Now, when I say real damage, I don't really mean real damage. You don't really do a whole lot of damage. I mean, this is a game that's designed to be played as a team. The real problem with that, though, is that there's not, like, a lot of people playing it, so if you're playing solo, you kind of just have to hide and make sure you don't get hit. But the combat feels pretty okay. The melee has a good snap to it where you'll lock onto a nearby target and jump to them. Your quick aiming system where you can switch back and forth between melee and ranged combat at will feels really nice. You can use a sniper rifle in close range by jumping back and picking off enemies, but there's not really much more to it than that. The abilities mostly suck. You don't deal a whole lot of damage, and there's no weak spots on enemies, so shooting them in the head or the butt or the foot, it's all the same. On the other end of things, enemies deal way too much damage, even when I played with a small group, because there were like 2 other people playing, period. All 3 of us got wiped out by, I think, 2 other enemies, because the ones with guns just keep firing. There's no limit to how much they can shoot, how fast. As long as you're within their sights, you're going to keep taking damage, and it sucks. When things work well, No Love Lost actually feels pretty good. It should have a lot going for it. It's got a pretty decent combat system that feels really nice when things work. The hoverboard system is awesome. I love that twist on the exploration. This is a tried and true formula with extraction shooter elements, with multiplayer, with Fortnite type stuff, with really awesome graphics and stylish visuals. Everything that should make No Love Lost into an exciting and successful multiplayer competitive extraction shooter is here. It's just that it's all executed really poorly. Now, this game is completely free, so I'm not going to turn my nose up at it too much. Of course, there are microtransaction elements in there, which nobody's going to buy, let's be honest. But if you want to check the game out for free, you can. It won't cost you anything. You'll be playing alone pretty much, but you can. If this was a paid title, though, I definitely wouldn't recommend it. Personally, I'm not especially interested in it. I definitely won't be going back to check this game out again later. Unless, there's some extreme developments that really change the direction of everything, I would say that there is no love lost between myself and this game. Come on, you knew that joke was coming. But that's my bottom line. I'm the voice in your head. Thanks so much for listening to me today. And you'll be hearing from me again real soon.